Welcome to Caring Conversations, a podcast for caregivers, care receivers, experts, and everyone in between. We're here to help you and your congregation nurture a culture of care, build up the body of Christ through real stories and practical insights from people across all walks of life and all types of care ministry. And now here's your host and Caring Congregation team leader, Debbie Dellinger.
Today, we pick up on part 2 of our episodes, Care is the Heart of the Church interview with Reverend Karen Lampe. We further explore the model of care Karen has created along with others over many years. It is exciting to hear from the one who has done the work, led the effort, evolved, and changed. Karen, you are certainly all of that. That leads me to the question, which is really, what about care, self-care for your care ministers who have walked through these really tough situations with people, with congregants or community members? What do we do about that?
Well, there's, I think, short-term and long-term. I think we have to, as pastors, offer at least 1 to 2 times of meeting per month with our CCMs and just say, how is it with your soul? Is there, and if you have a team, for them to be able to care for each other. I've heard of teams doing a marvelous way of doing this. One particular team in Florida, they have a way of doing this care for each other with stones. They give each person a stone, and then there's a container in the middle, and they say, "What are you carrying in your stone? And is there new anxiety, or is there um, just a story that has triggered you?" And so they can share in a confidential way so that, you're not um, telling the whole story, but you're sharing what's hurting your heart. And then they put their stone in this bowl in the center so that they, in a sense, are releasing. It's a way of releasing. But they do this monthly or bi-monthly. Actually, I think they do that piece monthly, and the other meeting that they have is for just a way of reading a book together, growing together, and that's another way that you can actually do care for your CCMs. If you're going through a book that will help them theologically, or perhaps help them journal, that kind of thing. So that's the short term. The long term, if you want to get long term with your laity, I think that way is to, on occasion, sit down with them one-on-one and ask the big question, how is it with your soul? In a coffee shop, maybe you can do that. If your team, you can do that. I don't know. It depends on the size of your team. If your team is fairly sizable, or if your team is just 2 people, you might want to do that like once every 2 months or something. But again, it is a way of prayer, to pray with them, give them books that will help them care for themselves. You might consider a book like Jesus is Calling, which I think is a wonderful book to help people just have a daily devotion for themselves. Another one that I love is Prayers for a Planetary Pilgrim. And
Both excellent. Both excellent. I've
Mhm.
used Jesus Calling, and it is amazing when you open to the date and you read it
Yes,
and how the Holy Spirit works to apply it directly
right,
to you. It is such a blessing.
isn't it? And
Mm,
over the years, I've used the same one over and over, and I've noted things on the days. So then the next year, I remember what I have prayed for, and it's like, oh my goodness, isn't it amazing how those prayers and how that situation has resolved?
that is
It is,
amazing.
yeah. But
Yeah.
this Prayers for a Planetary Pilgrim by Edward Hayes, just like it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have used for years. It's a personal manual for prayer and ritual. A personal manual for prayer and ritual. So find the books that will help your care team members um, stay prayed up. Because as long as they're prayed up, and the last way I would say is at least once a year, have a retreat with
Uh-huh.
them. If that would be um, maybe you would have some sort of retreat center that you could go to from your church, but make it a bit special. Maybe put, um, assign folks to, so you're not doing all of it, assign folks to do the devotion or perhaps be on the food team, but set aside, and that's biblical. That's John 21, where Jesus is by the seashore, and he's um, just crackling up some and frying up some fish for his disciples who are completely depleted
Mm.
after the resurrection.
I
And
remember
he's
that. You've preached on that beautifully.
so those are my suggestions, Debbie. Keep a lookout for any way that your own team members might
I
be
have an
needing care.
How has the training changed in the last 5 or 6 years? The world has changed with COVID and with all kinds of other social, cultural developments in our society. How has our training met those needs? Have we evolved?
Oh my goodness, Debbie, I so hope that
Mm,
we are always on the lookout for what's going on in our own personal communities, but what also is happening in the world and might cause extra anxiety. And for the caring congregation, that is why these episodes we hope will be a way of sustaining for you um, as you might be needing um, extra encouragement. These seasons that we will be going on our podcast, but also our weekly care note. We, as a congregational care team, a TCC, nationally, we do our best to gauge what's going on in the world. For instance, at this last seminar I gave, it was the anniversary of the beginning of the Ukraine war,
mm,
the fourth anniversary. And we noted that in our prayer, in our opening prayer, and in um, so that um, people are realizing this is um, a way of noting and praying for what's going on in the world. I hope all of our listeners will um, sign into not only our podcast, but also our Facebook and um, any, and of course, our website. Um, One of the ways that I think we have really evolved since COVID and since our denomination, the United Methodist, has we've done our best to become a more welcoming church by changing the doctrine of our church
Yes.
so that LGBT feel as if they are welcome in leadership roles, clergy roles, and having their weddings, all of these different ways. And um, and that is an important piece. Now, even in our trainings, um, in our book, in our newest book, The Implementation Guide, there's some telling of my story and my son's story
Mm-hmm.
as a family, and how we um, have done our best as a family, but also as a church to make sure that there is a sense that faithfulness means all people. And when we say all, what does that really include? It includes those who are on the journey to full inclusion, as well as those who are fully including, or,
Yeah.
you know, as well as the people who want to be included.
Well said.
So it is so, it's such a big, big question. And that's the last thing that when I'm teaching a seminar on the very first day, that's the last thing that we bring to the table. And you think people are probably tired after the long day, but you can hear a pin drop. And it's because people are hungry to have greater understanding, and they are um, wanting to, yes, indeed, um, ask themselves the question, what would Jesus do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one of our bylines is we want to care like Jesus cares.
Absolutely. You got
Yeah.
it, Debbie.
Yeah. So I know that we are expanding into different ways of teaching. We have a new Spanish language curriculum. So that's an inclusive feature that we're moving towards that with another publication about. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, that's coming out, we hope, within this month. It's called Care Across Cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And as we have been doing this method of care for 8+ years, as well, even before that, when I looked at the first notebook was in like 2014, I think was maybe the first time that we did it just without books. We had a notebook,
Mm-hmm.
but
I still have it.
over, hmm but over that time, um, the things that we have learned is that this is not for white hetero people only. And
Yeah.
that again is where this new booklet, and it has videos. It's a small group study. It's a care ministers study group. It's called Care Across Cultures. And we have our Native American Bishop Wilson, who is teaching on behalf of Native American culture. We have um, Bishop Dolores Williamson from Louisiana, who is teaching on behalf of um, in the Black Voice, Black Church. And then we have from the Korean Church, Reverend Jin Cho, who is our district superintendent here in the Northeast Kansas district. But even then, this is like a first volume.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many cultures that we need to include in this conversation so we can continue to learn. Um, you know, care does not look the same
Mm-mm.
across cultures. And when you're doing a Native American um, care, what's important for them? Or at the time when you're doing their celebration of life, what's
Mm.
important to them? Um, when you're doing a Latino ministry, how does care look different? That's what we are trying to give people new tools, and we want people who do not look like us
Absolutely.
on our teams
Hmm.
so that they can be the ones to say, here is an important example or an important way for us to understand this particular culture. And as a white, privileged, hetero woman, I need to step back and say, um, please take the microphone and teach us.
Absolutely. Karen, I've already learned nuances of care in my context by reading that particular booklet. So it is going to be very helpful for other people. And I'm so looking forward to the next installments addressing different cultures and ethnicities. It will be wonderful. I know that you've also created another booklet at the request of Discipleship Ministries for social issues that are more and more part of our society. And I know you're teaching on that. So you want to tell us about that?
Yes, Debbie, there is a new booklet that actually you and Reverend Lisa DeGrinia from Florida um, have helped with the creation of. It's called Mental Health Ministry with emphasis on the loneliness epidemic. And, um, this loneliness epidemic is across all news right now. People are really seeing loneliness as a deep um, factor in our culture right now, and really all cultures, because I think it started more increasingly with um, COVID, but even as a child on the farm, I remember on the child, being out there, and as a farmer, um, farmers lead kind of a lonely existence in many respects, um, and some are very suited for that, and others, it becomes a way of life, and they don't understand perhaps the depth of loneliness
Uh-huh.
that is, even in the recession of 2008, statistics tell us that suicide was huge in rural communities, and because then they were losing not only
Uh-huh.
their farms and but they were also deeply already not able to talk with folks. That was their way of life. And so this new booklet, we hope it's 52-page booklet. Is that right, Debbie?
It is 52 pages.
It will be out in June at the discipleship tables and at every annual conference in the United Methodist Church. Um, I assume it will also be available online for churches to purchase. Um, we, I know years ago I helped write one that was called Discipleship as Care,
Uh-huh.
and you can still buy that. It's like $3 from the Upper Room, United Methodist Upper Room or Discipleship Ministries. Just Google it. Um, and it was called Discipleship as Care.
That care is part of discipleship. And I think that we would agree that caring like Jesus cares is the underpinning of the entire church, whether it's evangelism, worship, discipleship. It is the one thing that helps people grow in their knowledge and love of Christ, and the church grow in being able to care for people, both in the church and in their communities. And you're the one that has taught me that.
And you want me to say more about that, Debbie?
Well,
It sounds to me like you have so much in your heart about that.
well, you can say it back to me and we can have it in your voice.
Well, we believe at the Caring Congregation that care is the heart of the church, and for pastors who may not think themselves a great preacher, if you do great care, your people will absolutely adore everything that you're able to bring to the church. You will have people at your side who will become influencers because they know that you will walk through hell with them. And that in itself is the gospel message. You do not have to say that many times from the pulpit, but even when you do, to use, you probably have heard pastors who they don't tell much about their personal stories, or they don't tell stories even that may not be personal. But to me, when you as a pastor are able to tell the story of the gospel message through actual life, real time stories, this is when the gospel comes alive. This is when you can say um, that this is the salvation story in action.
Mhm. Mhm.
And for me, in my own life, and everyone who I hope to bring along in this method of care, I love to hear their stories. I love to know how God has shaped them and that they've had their own salvation moments, just because of something that's happened in their life, and they absolutely couldn't have gotten through it without the church.
Yes. So, Karen, that's beautiful. Is there one last thing you'd like to leave the listeners with? One last point?
Oh my
Eh,
goodness, Debbie, I would hope and pray that people just take care of themselves today. That's what I would want people to hear. Um, we, as caregivers, we do so very much, and we absolutely have to have a team, but we have to find spiritual wellness ourselves. How do you answer that question? How can I be spiritually well? And to answer that is a very personal thing. I mean, we're special. Each one of us has different abilities. For me, because I don't have a much of a disability. I get out and walk daily, or get on the treadmill. I know I have to move my body. I
mhm.
know that I have to do my deep breathing prayer, um, morning and night. I I know that sunshine is a healer. I know
Yes.
that if I can get out and hear the birds sing,
Mhm.
that will heal my soul. So I just want everyone to know, if you're a caregiver, find those ways to keep yourself spiritually well so that you can do the best that you can for others, and then
Thank
pass those ideas along. Um, you know, whatever it is that and also I want to be clear with all of you that you need to find the people in your life who will help you who will help you have joy, I guess is the word. Um, I have some joy makers in my life. They're 4 and 5 years old, and then I have a 12 and 14-year-old and a 18 and 22-year-old, and they bring me joy just about like nobody else on the planet can. Um,
Oh,
we play. we get down on the floor and we play, and I think you need to find ways to play.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Karen, for that wisdom. I'd like to remind our readers that the website for the Caring Congregation is www.caringcongregation.com. We are constantly updating it, and if you have an idea for that resource page, let us know. We'd like to add it.
Thank you, Debbie, so much.
Do you have a care story to share? We'd love to hear from you. Reach out to info@thecaringcongregation.org. You can also visit us at caringcongregation.com, where you'll find our full archive of podcast interviews under the Resources tab. While you're there, sign up to receive our weekly care note, and don't forget to follow us on the Caring Congregation Facebook and Instagram pages.